Welcome to Clay Forge, my channel where I'm going to create tiny little clay figures out of oven baking clay. I'm the Clay Forger, and today we're going to create a tiny little demon goon. I'm sorry for the bad quality of the picture. It's just filmed with my phone and it's already midnight nearly in my country, so no natural light. So, for the demon goon, it's a very simple figure. You don't need much. Of course, for the first video, I didn't want to take the most crazy, most difficult things because I also didn't want to screw up. And as you can see, now I'm preparing the clay figures, and I've already made one tiny demon goon to show it to you and already be prepared. So if my first one wouldn't be what I want, I could make it again, and as it looks, it is what I want. I think it's pretty good. So I will prepare the colors and then we're going to see each other again. So these are basically all the camera was not moved correctly. These are all the clay pieces that you need. As you can see, we have orange, we have black, we have dark brown, we have white, we have dark gray, and a little bit of, you could call it beige. It's beige mixed with a little bit of white. So of course, for the little demon goonie, you can put him here so we can look at him. He is very small and he's mostly orange, as you would expect a demon to be. He has some tiny little wings and nothing else more. So first we're gonna begin with the body. I'm using some tools that are created for modeling, a clay shaper, silicone, so it's flexible, and also a very sharp scalpel. So the inspiration for the demon goon comes from the game Kingdom Rush. It's for me at least, a very popular tower defense game made by the game studio Ironhide. It's very old, the original game, and in the original game, this tiny little demon goon, then 10 years ago, looked not as good as now. In now newer games, it was an enemy at the later stages of the game that you had to defeat. It was like fiery demon scenery, and you had to defeat them with other demons. He also appeared in the newest tower defense game of Kingdom Rush Vengeance, where you play as the bad guy, so you play with the demons. And in this game, these are actually ally units you can call every now and then. And yeah, of course, with progressing in level, they change their outfits, so they won't be this tiny little guy for all of the time, and in the end they can be really big demons. So the last time that I have seen them was in the game in the game Legends of Kingdom Rush. It's I don't know how to call it. It's a hero game, so you basically have certain heroes, and you are trying to defeat enemies of all the games because of some new threat. I haven't played the game myself, I have just watched videos about it. As you can see, I've already made a body. Very simple, just cut a tiny little worm of clay into two and make a bit of dent so the head can be placed here. Now I'm on the head. As you can see, this is going to be the mouth. The mouth is not very detailed, doesn't really have any interior. The only thing that we can see from the mouth is that the demon seems to be angry and that he seems to have two little teeth. But yellow tooth doesn't seem to brush them often. So, the next thing for this tiny little head is to make some eye sockets. In the game, there's actually a moment where you can have them we can see their eyes. That is when they get killed and explode. Yeah, not something you want to see with your allied units, so yeah. But it doesn't matter, because this figure won't explode. So now, this is also something, with every figure you have to look how it really works. This head is already a bit bigger than the last one, and as you could see, or maybe could see, bad quality of my video, the head was a little bit too long into this direction, so I had to change it a bit. I squeezed it a little bit, and now it's fine again. Refine the mouth shape again, and yeah, the head is basically done. So now, what does the demon need else? Of course, he needs some tiny little arms. Tiny little arms to hold this tiny little dagger. This dagger, it's a very simplistic design. In the game itself, Kingdom Rush Vengeance, it doesn't even have this gold part here. But I thought for the better look, it would look better and more like a real sword or like a real dagger. So now, for the hands, for the arms, don't need anything else than a tiny worm of clay. Roll it a bit, and if you're done with that, just take a sharp knife, very sharp knife. In the past I've used a sharp knife that was too thick, so the blade, you can barely see it. It's like paper thin. So the thicker the blade, the less it's good. So if your blade would be as thick as this is here, it would just squeeze everything through, even if the blade would be sharp. Meaning, in this case, we need something very, very thin. Cut it. And as see, one of the arms is a little bit too long, but it doesn't matter because you can cut it again. And the arms don't get hurt of that, because you can roll them a bit again, and they have the same length again. And now with this tool I just showed you, you're going to make some tiny little dents, so the arms look like they would be in the position. Of course, with more detailed models, you can add muscles, you can add real hands. I have a lot of figures here on my table in this direction that actually have real hands, not just these tiny little worms of clay, and not just tiny little fists, and also very more, or at least more detailed arms. And so that is just a very simplistic design for my first video. I don't want to screw up on the first, or at least not at the first content I create. The first video was already a disaster. A wrong title, my forced instead of my first. But I hope you can forgive me for everyone who has seen that, and especially for the 5 people last time I checked that have seen the video. So yeah, now we're going to create a tiny little wings this tiny little guy has. From behind he's not that much, but from the front you can actually see the details on the wings. They're not very big or anything, they're just there. Let them look a bit more better, and that's it. So to get an even amount, you roll this again. You can also make a ball, but then it's a bit difficult, and then you see it's nearly the same. Cut a bit here, and so if you roll it out, you should have the same amount of clay if you put them next to each other. Sometimes it looks a bit from the perspective that the one is smaller than the other or bigger than the other, but sometimes it's just the perspective. If I roll this around a bit, it looks the same. If I roll it here, it looks a bit small. If I roll it here, it looks even bigger from my perspective, but this is really something that you have to a bit learn, and also with the amounts of clay that you need for certain things, because I could basically make one wing out of this amount of clay, but it would be too much. It would be bigger than the entire body, and although I think that these tiny little wings won't get up this big body with his tiny round body up in the air, I think with such wings he would be flying off to the moon, and I don't think you want him there. So, as you can see, I'm just rolling it on one side so it gets a bit pointy, then I'm squishing it down and squeeze it here. So I have a little edge here. Squeezing it like this, and it gets a bit thicker now. Squeeze it again. Now you have the overall shape of the wing already. You can see that? It's nearly comparable. And now you just take the clay tool. I think the real name for it's clay shaper, to shape the clay. As you can see, we are now shaping this, and to make it look like they would be the same wing, you can always work a bit on it. Now, this wing is just not like a bee wing or a fairy wing. It is very round, very smooth. Of course, it's smooth on the edges, but it needs some points. So we first make one here and another one there. And now we have a bit pointed wing. We can here squeeze it a bit down so it looks a bit floppy and not straight down. So you can make that. It's of course always your decision how to make it and how to deal with these things. You can give him the giant wings, you can give him a muscular body and the very tiny head still, and it's your decision if you want to make these figures and just watch my videos. So that's your decision after all. So now the wings looks pretty same. I'm cutting off this end here because in the end I want to stick it onto the back, and so that it looks nice. I've also done this with the arms. You can see that here. It's sharp in the end, so that you don't have, let's make in comparison it like this. This doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. At least not in this model. So now, what do we need else? Very easily mixed with a bit of beige. It's already a bit lighter beige because I mixed it with white, but take a bit of white, a bit of beige, and mix it. And yeah, then you already have this color that you need. Make a very, very pointy end. Take a very, very sharp edge. And then you already have your first tooth for our little guy. His first tooth. So, and his second tooth. Apparently he has only two. What a poor guy. Can only eat half of the things we do. But I don't think he would enjoy other things we eat, like hard carrots. I don't think he likes that. I think he more likes like sweets or something like that. Sweets, this tiny little guy that doesn't do anything other people want him to do because he's a tiny little demon and that's whatever he wants. So, now for the horns. I'm rolling it again. The point is, if it's already too thin, it might not be able to create a shape I want. So these horns need to be very big at the end in comparison to the teeth. So I can't let them, yeah, that's the problem. It's already too thin in comparison to this one. So I rolled again and make it again like this. And now it has the right shape. Comparable, the same size. And now we'll stick it on. You can again roll it a bit if you want, so you can see it. Or you can see it not so good here, but this is a bit flat, this surface, in comparison to the other side that is round. That is because even if I'm cutting with a very sharp and thin blade, I'm pressing it against the ground, so it's always going to be thinner at the ground side. So you might as well always round it up a bit to be smooth again. So the point is, of course, you can place the horns wherever you want. You can place them on his nose if he would have one. You can place them on his chin, but I placed them on the side because if it would be on the top, it wouldn't be like the image I'm taking it from the game, and it also wouldn't look like our guy here. You can already compare them. Now, what is the face now missing? I think you can already guess it. At first I thought I should make it with black, but black is too harsh. Black is too dark, too much, and so I decided I am going to make it with dark brown. Yeah. Cut it again. Roll some tiny. I'm moving the wings a bit so they don't bother me at the moment. Rolling a tiny bit. Rolling this a tiny bit. And then we're gonna make him angry. Really angry demon. I don't like your... Where are my sweets? I don't like it. Here. Oh, where's my buddy? Where's my little knife? If he is already complaining, let's give him his tiny little knife and his tiny little left body. So, only left from the body are his tiny legs. Really tiny legs. Of course, you would expect we humans have skin-colored legs, so why don't I give him orange legs? The point is, first, maybe he is wearing a trouser, and the second is, he's a demon, and like most portraits of the devil himself, he has goat legs and goat feet, so I would say, yeah, let's have a bit of hairy goat legs. Of course, if you're making a bigger model, you can of course let like a real hair texture appear, so it looks more like a real fur leg, but I don't think we need it at that moment. As you couldn't saw, I just rolled a bit. Let's show it another color. Sorry, first video and already bad at it. So I just basically made this in a size so it would fit on this body, so a bit bigger than this orange. But now we have all this, and now we can take and using a scalpel, you don't have to steal from the hospital. You can buy it in most stores, or at least that's what I am able to do. I don't know where you live, what your stores have in stock, but in my town they have that, and I've already used a few tips. You can maybe see it. It's not as pointy as it might or should be. It looks pointy, but it isn't truly. It could be more pointy and more sharp. So it's already in use, and now I'm just, as you can see, it's very sharp edge here, and we don't want it on a leg. I mean, your legs aren't made out of metal and not made out of things that are strict and harsh, so I think he's pretty fine if we make him legs that are a bit more soft on the edges. So now, what does a goat-legged demon need else next to his goat legs? Well, he doesn't have real feet, he has hoofs. Hoofs. Now, what do we need for that? The gray is from the other goonie, from our demon goonie. So you just take more white and black, because black is a very, very strong color. Very, very strong pigments. And you just begin to create, mix it a bit. I'm going to stop the video at that point and let it continue when I'm ready. Now, as you can see, as I said, when I'm ready, now this. We have dark gray. You don't need anything specific. Just take a little bit of this and of this. You have two hoofs that should be equal size. Let's compare it. Huh? I think this time it's clear who's the bigger one, at least from my perspective, as I said earlier. And now we have hoofs. Now the tricky part is we have to see if it fits to the foot, if it's big enough for the foot. And the best way to do that, hoof is mostly flat, so not a pointy edge or something, so you can just flatten it a bit. You can do it with your fingers, with a tool, whatever you want. And so you can try and look if it's fitting. If it is fitting, yeah, it fits. Of course it fits, if it fits. Now you take the other one, it fits also. Now you can, of course, squeeze it a bit around so the edges line properly up, but you don't have to. It's all your decision if you want to do it. I did it like this because, no, why not? I didn't do it on the other demon, so I thought, yeah, let's make it here, because if I make it here, you can see a difference. Now, it's not a horse hoof, so it's not one piece of a hoof, but more pieces. So I made this tiny little line in between the hoofs, and that's going to represent it. So now, let's see if we have everything together. Let's again smooth a bit the head, so it's like you wouldn't have any neck or throat, just body, head, and stick it on. You can see the arms are a bit too small, and that's something that you always need to check. So no problem, just make the arms bigger. Just make the arms bigger. I would say this piece would already be enough. We don't want to have arms that reach the ground or are as big as his body itself, so yeah. Rolling the pen again wasn't good enough, so now rolling it again, and now cutting it in the middle again, or again approximately the same size. I'm also sorry for my English if I sometimes pronounce words wrong. I'm not bad in English, but it's not my native language, so forgive me if I speak a bit wrong or translate a bit wrong. I don't actually know how I'm sounding in recording in a video in English, because this is my second video where I hear myself in English, and it's always a bit different from what you hear and what the audience hears, because of course you always hear different. So the arms are now bigger. Now I would say that's a bit better. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's a second guy. You can always have a first guy. Now, what is missing? What is missing? If you remember right, you can see the difference. This little guy, whoop, whoop, let's knock him over. This hand or this hand, something's missing. And that's the color that we need in the end. That's a bit of silver and a bit of, let's take a bit of that, a bit of gold for his tiny little dagger that he has. You don't have to give him a dagger. You can if you want. but I don't think it's necessary. It's just how the game portrays him. In the later levels, he has a real sword, or even a trident to throw at things, so a bit brutal. So now, what I'm going to do, the knife, the dagger is very small, and so I'm just going to roll out this and flatten it again. This time I'm using a different tool because this has a bigger size than the last one, and so I can smooth bigger areas better, make them flat. So we have our tiny little knife, and it's that's the thing. If you can see here, right, it's not just going like this, but also going like this. So it keeps getting thinner in the end, so we have to make that too a bit. So we're just going to do that, do that, smooth it a bit, smooth it a bit, smooth it a bit. And now we have something that looks like a iron toothpick, but it isn't. So cut the end off so it's flat at the end. Of course, now that it looks like it would have an edge, you can at an angle, not at a straight, and also not like this, but at a certain angle you can flatten the edges, and then you're going to have something that really looks like something that should be a knife for a little demon. You can, in the end, put a little line in the middle, like it, so it looks more like a sword, like a little. And then we're going to need a little bit of gold. We don't need much, maybe this size, maybe a little bit more, but it doesn't really matter. And flattening it again. You can make very much different forms. I have this form here. It's more for a knight. It's more for a real good fighter. But this, it works for a little demon guy. And now we're just attaching that on here. Make it a bit normal again, so it looks good. Then we're finished. The sword is finished. It's gone from the table. Now stick it onto his hand, and now he's done. The second goonie, now I have two. You can see maybe there are two brothers. The one is the big one, the other is the small one. He always steals the candy so they can both eat together. Or the little one mocks the other because he's the little guy. He says he can cry, and the other one gets blamed for it. But I don't know. Do whatever you want with them. It's your idea. It's your tiny little demons. So, I hope for this very, very first content video of my channel, I really had a fear that I might paint a devil on the wall, but instead I created a demon on the table. Yeah, I think it went better than I expected. Of course, I would love to see comments on the video if you want to make any comments. If you liked it, if you want anything to be improved, if you didn't care at all, I'm fine with everything because feedback is everything you need. Without feedback, you can't do anything. So I think maybe tomorrow, the next video, the next 2 days, the next video, I don't know. I have to look which kind of creature, which kind of demon maybe even I'm going to create, because there are many more demons you could create. Could create bigger demons. I mean, I have even more orange. Of course, also this orange was mixed with normal orange, a bit of yellow and a bit of red, more yellow than red. So it's not the bright orange clay, but it's also not the dark one. It's not too dark, it's like perfectly fitting. Also, something I want to say is, what clay am I using? I'm using clay that I think is available in all of the world. I hope, at least, because if not, some people might blame me. Yeah, he told me it would be here. Why is it not here? So it's Fimo clay. You can see here, this is Fimo effect. It has some effects. So this is, if we turn the package around, you might see it. It's jade green. In my language, it's Yada. And this is not like a special effect, but it glitters a bit. You're not really able to see that much, maybe a bit of this angle, but there are also other colors that, like this, if you turn it around, translucent green. So this gets a bit transparent, not like you could see through green glass, but it gets a bit transparent. Another thing that would be this old. I think I haven't opened this in half of a year. This old package of Fimo Soft. Fimo Soft is like the normal variant that you get everywhere in stores, Amazon, internet, everywhere. It's soft, but not too soft. So a problem that I often have is that, for example, black clay is very, very soft. It like melts through your hands, and it's a bit different from each color to each color. Gold, for example, is also very soft. Some others are very, very hard, but that depends. Also on temperature, it's very warm at the moment in my room. I have the window shut so I don't annoy my neighbors when I'm talking at midnight. But yeah, it's warm, and so the warmer it gets, the smoother the clay gets, but also it's not good if it's too smooth, because then you can't really work with it. So yeah, that's the clay I'm using. I don't have any links in the description of the video. I think if you just Google female clay, I think you can find it. I also don't want to make any advertising for the company or anything. Just want to tell you what clay I'm using, to know, or to tell you, at least after the video, why I'm saying you need this color, and you're asking yourself, yeah, but tell me which company, which clay. So you know that. And yes, that's it for my first video. I hope you enjoyed how I made these tiny little goons, these two. They're really not that special, but it's the beginning. It's the beginning. I can show you one that is a bit more complicated, is a bit more unfinished. He doesn't have his hands because they would fall off, but this is a giant troll. Also made after a design, not an exact design, but after a design of also Kingdom Rush. So yeah, I have better figures than this just small tiny thing, but yeah. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment if you like, it would help me very much. Likes, I don't care at the moment really much. I don't know what to do with them. I would just like to know if people like to see it, if they want to hear me talking, if I should more be quiet. And also the point is, as I see this is already 4:34 minutes long, and I'm still talking. So I just made these two little figures and talked a bit. So if I make a giant one, it would take much, much longer. And so I don't know if you want to hear me talking the whole time or not. So please tell me this. I think before midnight I will upload this, and let's see how it goes around.